Hey guys, so I want to make a really quick follow-up video to yesterday's video because I feel like it might have been a little bit misleading in a way, because I said, I'm 24 and a half months off drugs, but if you've never watched my full story video, I'm going to give a quick recap of what's actually happened. So I took SSRIs from 2011 to 2018, specifically citalopram. I took 20 milligrams. Then I was in a real bad financial place and I wanted to come off meds because I couldn't afford anything but like pure survival stuff. And I didn't even think that antidepressants were doing much. So I did a 4-week taper, medically supervised, after 7 years of use, and started getting all these symptoms, but I didn't know anything about withdrawal. I didn't know it was from coming off meds. Suffered for 7 months and then saw a psychiatrist, went back on full dose citalopram in November of 2018. So at 7 months off. Had an adverse reaction. I didn't really know what adverse reaction meant then, but I knew like I was having all these crazy symptoms, severe heart palpitations, insomnia, like sweating through my sheets, agitation, like worse anxiety, all these things. So I did, after a week of that reinstatement, I came off again, and then I stayed off for 23 months. So this takes me to October of 2020. And a lot of my symptoms had went away, but my mental stuff was still really bad. So I just thought, I must need some type of mental health medication. Oh, such a regret of mine now. But so at that point, I had learned a lot about withdrawal. I had been in the communities by this point, and I was like, I should try a microdose reinstatement. So I reinstated citalopram at 0.5 milligrams, which is a 40th of my original dose. Went up to 1 milligram, went up to 2.5 milligrams. I was having symptoms, like bad symptoms, on that low of a dose. But then it was when I got to 2.5 that I got akathisia. And so I knew what it was right away, and I freaked out. And so then I was in the hospital and I was tried on different drugs because I was still having such severe mental symptoms, and they had gotten way worse after the reinstatement. But of course, the doctors are like, you have all these mental health problems, you need to take meds. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to trust them. So then I tried Prozac and Zoloft and Luvox, and I tried antipsychotics. I tried risperidone and Seroquel, and I had reactions to all of them. And so I was super frustrated, but then I was given Ativan, and it was like a miracle drug because at 1 milligram it took away so many of my symptoms, and I was able to sleep again, and it took away a good chunk of my mental symptoms, and the akathisia feelings were subsided a lot. So, and I knew the dangers of benzos at that point, so I was like, I'm only going to take them for a few days. But of course, I loved that I could function again, and so I ended up, the doctors were like, yeah, we'll give you a longer prescription. So I ended up taking Ativan for a month, and then it went paradoxical on me. So tried all these SSRIs, antipsychotics, was on Ativan for a month, it went paradoxical. So I started doing a micro taper. I made it down to 0.6 milligrams, and then the paradoxical reaction was so severe, my mom ended up calling 911. I ended up in the hospital, the ER, and then the psych ward, and was admitted. And then they put me on propranolol because at this point, like, I had tried several different doctors over the course of these months. So like I said, I did my microdose reinstatement in October. I got akathisia in like November, December. And then I was, playing around with all these different drugs, taking Ativan until February. And I'd seen a bunch of different doctors along that journey, and then a couple of different hospital stays. And then a doctor finally diagnosed me with akathisia, put me on propranolol. They cold turkeyed me off Ativan. And so then I was just on propranolol from February of 2021. So I did only a 3-month reinstatement, trying the different drugs, taking the Ativan, came off everything February 21st of 2021, and then, but continued to take propranolol for the akathisia until April of 2021. And then I was like, I just don't want to take any pharmaceuticals at all. Came off propranolol, and I've been totally drug-free ever since. So it's kind of, I didn't want to mislead people in my last video saying, oh yeah, I feel way better after 24 months, 24 and a half months, because people's comments, were saying, I'm 26 months off, I'm 28 months off, and I'm still really bad. So my journey was really 5 years, because next month, so in April of 2023, it'll be 5 years since this whole nightmare began. So even though it wasn't 5 years drug-free, it was mostly drug-free, except for a 1-week reinstatement in November of 2018 and a 3-month reinstatement / trying different drugs and benzos from October of 2020 to February 2021, like end of October. So that's the true timeline. So if you look at, you know, this whole life-changing event, the total was 5 years. So that's just to give you a little bit more of a history if you haven't watched. I'll link my whole full story video at the end of this. I have a 60-second short that sort of summarizes some of my symptoms, which, by the way, are not the worst. Like, that was just what happened to be captured on video, but my symptoms were worse than that. That's just kind of a snippet of what some of it looked like. And so, but I want you to know that it was worse than that. And then I have about a 1 hour video that tells my whole story, like in much more detail. So you can check those out. I'll link them at the end of this video. But just so you know, it was not just a 2-year journey, because I know 2 years is not very long in this sort of scheme of things. So it was more like 5 years for me, start to finish. And I'm not even finished yet. I still feel like I have another 20-30% healing to go. But I mean, I'm miles ahead of where I was. So have a great weekend, everyone. Bye. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye.